fine. It's fine. Okay. You want to go back to the...
Testing. I'm taking it.
Hello, test 1, test 1, test 2, test 1, test 2.
I can see. It's fine. See your face.
Test 1, test 2.
Yeah, it's fine. Oh, it'll work. It'll be. Yeah. It's like a 2-second delay. So I can edit it later. Sound working.
Right. Well, because they're starting to bring everybody. That's part of the argument that I'm making. Also, because it's such a private issue, it's important to be helpful for this community. Because the reality is, everybody's on our side. And if no one fights for it, then it's still like I said. So we do have to be everyone's all on their side. So there does definitely well, one of the things that I would say
Too dark.
it's economic development, or Nashville, or Detroit, all over the country. You see not just entrepreneurs,
I'll take another one later.
and one of the researchers is Harvey Johns. He started out at 4.3 It's so if you're not interested, people like you guys start companies. It's there's an restaurant or business. So, It's a process, but I think we're getting there. Things like this stuff. All right. I'm gonna sit right down at the end near my sign.
All right, welcome everybody to the March for Innovation San Francisco live event. Thanks for coming and spending a random Wednesday evening with us. And that's the Silicon Valley Initiative for Who's Live, which is the organization that I work for. It's a public policy trade association representing 375 companies in the area. And we're one of the organizers of the March for Innovation, along with Mayor Bloomberg and a number of other similar organizations across the country. So today's event actually is the culmination of a whole day of people on Twitter and Facebook and Google Hangout and Reddit talking about the March for Innovation and getting people excited about telling their legislators that we want immigration reform now from the perspective of the innovation economy, from people who are trying to create new industries, trying to promote technology. So New York kicked off the party at about 3 o'clock Pacific time, and then it went to San Antonio and to Austin and then to us here. So you're part of a across the country party that we're having, and we have a great set of panelists here. We're going to talk about what immigration reform has meant to them and what you guys can do to help promote it. So without further ado, I'm going to have the panelists all introduce themselves, and I'm going to start with the softball question of letting them tell us about themselves, what they're doing now, and their story about how they came to America for the immigrants. So, want to go ahead?
Hi, I'm Ritul Rundave. I'm the founder of a company called brightest. We're bringing innovation in the field of charitable giving. We help people connect with, understand the most important nonprofits and the causes that they care about. And we help them support them in charitable giving. We help them do that through online fundraising, also through workplace giving programs. I started my company about a year ago, and I came to the United States about 11 years ago to pursue a master's in computer science at the University of Southern California in LA. Right after I graduated, I moved to the Silicon Valley Bay Area. Worked in various different startups in the valley here. I was always inspired by the innovation that happens here, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of different startups, and now got a chance to work on my master.
Okay, so were you here on a student visa, and then?
Yeah, I came here on student visa, and then once I got a job at a company in Silicon Valley, I transferred to a work visa, an H1 visa. And then a few years ago, I got my green card, which allowed me to start my own company. I was not tied to an employer.
Congratulations. But you had to get your green card first before you did. Yeah. That's one of the things that we're trying to fix inside the panel. Thank you. One of the things that the new bill that's been proposed would fix is that you can apply for a green card while you're a student and have dual intent. So you wouldn't have to go work for a big company just to get an H-1B to stay here. And the other thing is that there will be an entrepreneur visa, so that, again, you don't have to wait for your green card and work for a bigger company. You can be sponsored by a bigger company before you can start your own business. So one of the things that we're promoting in the bill that you should look out for. All right, thanks.
My name is Björn Hermann. I'm originally from Germany, and I've been in the Bay Area for the last 4.5 years. I'm currently running a company called Compass. Our goal is to increase the success rate of small, medium-sized businesses. We're providing benchmarks and recommendations on business metrics for companies. So we automated what the expensive McKinsey analyst does for large companies, and we're providing it to small, medium-sized businesses. We're currently tens of thousands of companies globally that are using that service, mostly in the software space. I've been, even before coming to the US, I worked in Moscow, in Russia. I've been working in Bangladesh, and a few other places in Europe, and been running 4 non-profit businesses, sort of trying to like impact the local economy in various ways. And I guess I'm part of a global community of entrepreneurs and people that try to make a difference, but that really move between different countries and that are not like hold sort of by any specific nationality, like national order. I think the entrepreneurship visa is very important because it is something that makes the US as a country a lot more attractive for sort of my community of people that are really global, that think global, that are global. And I think that as we're looking into the future, there is anyways tons of reforms that are necessary in terms of like, visas, and it should become a lot more liberal. When I was in Russia, I was surprised that you know the passport is still very close to its original meaning in Russia, where really it sort of limits you to certain cities where you live, and you can't move between cities without getting a new registration. And that's where where the passport came from, that even within countries you're not allowed to move because people were afraid that now suddenly everyone would move to one city, right? In the US everyone would move to New York, everyone would move to Philadelphia or to some place, and what we see is that even within countries, if I now compare say Russia to the US or to Germany, that didn't happen, and I think also globally this will not happen. If we make the rules more liberal, we will not suddenly see everyone from their home country move to the US just because some people consider the US to be the most desirable place. But I think it will make the US more competitive within the space for sort of a very specific talent that is very free moving, right? That doesn't care where they work, and that is willing to work from anywhere where they can leverage or where they can create the biggest impact with their skill set. And that is a global talent war that really is going on right now, and I think the US needs to sort of participate in it, just like other countries like Canada or the UK or Ireland, Australia, that are also pursuing those specific type of visas for those specific type of free movers that can create big impact in those communities.
And your story isn't atypical in that you've had how many different types of visas?
I can't count. So, I mean, I had a number of different visas, and I came here on a visa waiver, and so we were running a software company, and I thought, you know, what better place to be and to learn than Silicon Valley, and I didn't know much about software companies back then, so I came here and I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot, and I felt that I can reach a lot more being here. And so I sort of went from one visa to another, and you're always somewhat in the gray zone as an entrepreneur, because no matter what you do, you're always violating your visa status to some degree, right? If you're here on a business visa, you start a company, that's not what you're supposed to do. If you have a work visa, or a trainee visa, or internship visa, or any type of other visa, you're not supposed to start a company. You're supposed to work at another company. There's a single purpose to every single visa, which means no matter what you do, you always violate your visa status. And which is a reason why a lot of people, of course, are nervous about it, and they end up not pursuing the route of actually starting their company here because they are afraid that there might be consequences, right? So, and then some people are crazy enough to just pursue, to say, okay, let's just do it and see what happens. And there's some people that get deported. There is examples of entrepreneurs that come here, that start their companies, that end up having to leave for one or the other reason, and that is unfortunate. And, that's the gamble they do. But I don't think it's necessary. It doesn't really make sense for the US as a country to have those people who create jobs and create growth and
So the proposed bill actually, would basically allow somebody like yourself to just apply for an entrepreneurship visa rather than continue trying to find something that you fit into. It would actually be tailored exactly for folks like yourself to actually get a visa rather than trying to fit into a visa that currently exists, which there is no entrepreneur visa right now. So, thank you. All right, Alex.
My name is Alex Tornegra. I'm originally from Colombia. My life as an entrepreneur actually started in Colombia when I was 14. But after a couple of years, I realized that innovation was happening in the US. So when I was 19, I sold everything that I had in Colombia. I got a one-way ticket and I came to the US. Now, when I arrived to the US, I realized two things relatively fast. First, I got to Miami, and Miami is not the US, so it's more like the capital of Latin America as opposed to. Actually, we joked with friends in Miami when we wanted to go to Fort Lauderdale that we needed to bring our passports in order to be able to cross the border. The other thing that I realized is that English was really important if I wanted to do business, and my English skills were not that good back in the day. So, as many other Latino immigrants end up doing, I work at McDonald's, I work at Starbucks, so I make really good coffee, and my hamburgers actually suck, so never get them. And fast forward, I eventually moved to New York City. More recently, I moved to San Francisco, but I really wanted to stay. In order to stay in the US, I actually had to go back. In order to stay in the US, first, well, I came here with a tourist visa. I had to some extent, convince the government that I was sick and that I needed an extension on my visa. Then, when I ran out of visa extensions, I became a student. I had dropped college back in Colombia, but I had to go back to college in the US. So another thing is that people say that successful entrepreneurs, if you drop college, your chances of being a successful entrepreneur are higher. I ended up dropping college twice, so I guess that increases my chances. Because I had to go back to college here in the US in order to stay here. So I had an F visa for a couple of years. Then I was trying to get an H-1B visa, and September 11 happened. And the only way for me to get a visa was to go back to Colombia. And as a Colombian, the chances of you getting a visa, even if it's an H-1B visa, are very slim. I have several friends that they went back to Colombia. Their visa was approved here, but I mean not their visa, their petition was approved here. But when they went back to Colombia to get the actual visa to come back, it was denied. Some of them were able to finally come here. Some of them were not able to go back to the US. So I didn't want to risk it, and fortunately for me, as that was happening, I met my current wife, business partner, and probably first angel investor, Tanya, and she was close to become an American citizen, and she offered me the opportunity of getting married to her many years ago. Initially, we were only husband and wife. Eventually, we ended up becoming business partners. Tanya is a voiceover talent. And because of the inspiration and the ideas that she brought to the table is that we created into businesses that we have today that have been the most successful ones. It's Voice123 and Voice Bunny. Voice123 is a marketplace to find voiceover talents for any kind of project. Voice Bunny is a platform that allows you to have human voices on demand. And we do that by working with a crowd of more than 100,000 voice actors working from home studios. Today we have more than 70,000 clients, and more than 1,000 voice actors make most of their income thanks to the platform that we have created. We are also very proud that we are one of the companies that has innovated on the area of reverse outsourcing, because we work with many clients. So the voices that we offer, they are for video games, phone systems, animations, movies, podcasts, audiobooks, anything you can think of. We work with many companies outside the US. You can think of animation companies in China, or India. They need voices, and they like American voices. So they actually use our platform to hire a lot of people in the US. I'm happy to not only have a team of people here in the US working for the company, but also enable people from outside the US to hire people in the US to work for them.
Okay, so you solved your visa problems by getting married to
I
somebody
was
who would.
I was very lucky. Yeah, I say that Tanya is my first angel investor because she was really an angel. She was investing on my future. But hopefully, and that's one of the reasons I support March for Innovation, shouldn't be a matter of luck, right? I was lucky, but I know many people that have not been.
Right, and I've already heard the theme now that there's no clear path. There's all these ways that you basically have to figure out in order for you to stay here and start your business. And so that's something that you definitely.
It's almost like a second venture that you have. You have to sort of hack your way through the system to make it work. And it's true. Really, most entrepreneurs that I know that are immigrants, and there's tons of them, more than half of the companies in the Valley are started, tech companies are started by immigrants. Everyone has a very unique story of somehow finally getting the visa or the green card. Yeah, either you need to sort of, do some work, work for a larger company until you get your green card, or you somehow hack your way through it, right?
I didn't hack that yet.
I think what I always say to reporters is that we want our entrepreneurs to think more about their products and less about their visa status. Because as you know, to start a company takes a lot of energy, and you really want 100% of what of that to go towards trying to put your venture up and not trying to figure out what kind of visa you can get next so you can stay. So, all right, Mike, I don't know if you have an immigration story yourself, but why don't you?
I don't. So it's good to be in a crowd like this where I'm in the minority that I don't have the immigration story to talk about. But I'm Michael McGarry. I'm the co-founder and chief political strategist for Engine Advocacy. We're based here in San Francisco. We're a nonprofit that connects the startup community with government at the federal, state, and local level. We do a lot of what Silicon Valley Leadership Group does on a national scale in a lot of ways, but we work with small to medium-sized companies. So a lot of the guys that you see represented here, for example, would be members of ours. Immigration, when we were starting Engine, was we were putting down the list of issues that we would want to support, 1 through 10. The first 5 were immigration, and patent. And then I think immigration was 6 as well. It was that for those of us who had been involved in the startup community and here in the Valley or throughout the country, we had friends that had been through this one way or the other, and we had been working with them, or had tried to hire people, or had worked with a co-founder to try to start a company, and knew people that had done this, that had gone through and had stories just like the 3 gentlemen to my right. Enough really is enough with this, because startups and small businesses are the engine. Let's see where we came up with the name. The engine that power economic growth and development in the United States. And many of those businesses are founded by people that may not have been born here, but came to the United States to get the best education in the world in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or a similar discipline where they came and wanted to start a business and change the world in their way. And it seems pretty much criminal to say, well, you can come here and get an education, we'll let you do that, but then we're going to send you home, or send you to a country where the welcome sign is out, like Canada, where we just had the Minister for Immigration and Citizenship down here in Silicon Valley, in Emily's neck of the woods, where there's now a very nice new billboard on 101 that says, you having visa trouble? Pivot to Canada. Because on April 1st, and this is not an April Fool's joke, on April 1st in this country, we opened an H-1B lottery so that guys like this can apply to get a visa to work at a technology company and eventually maybe start their own business, but help fuel technology and economic growth in some way. There were 65,000 visas available. There were 125,000 applications, give or take.
In the first week.
In the first week, and then it was closed.
So
that's exactly right. And so it became a coin flip, basically. So not only are we only keeping half the people that want to stay here and work in technology and help grow the economy that way, we don't even know if we're keeping the right 50%, because you're flipping a coin with every application and figuring out who can stay and who are sending overseas. On the same day Our neighbors to the north opened their startup visa program. That same Minister for Immigration that was down here, they put up a very nice, well-appointed website with lots of different people to contact. People, not just email addresses. These are people that you can talk to help you get a visa to start your business in Vancouver or Toronto or Saskatoon if you so choose. They want entrepreneurs to come to Canada. We've already got the entrepreneurial minds here. We have the best universities in the world. We're training these people how to be the best and brightest in whatever field they choose, and then we're sending them back overseas. That is a criminally negligent thing to do to an economy that is just barely on the rebound right now, and in a way that we could create so much more opportunity. We've done economic research that shows not only that we are already creating jobs and continuing to create jobs in a way that looks like a hockey stick to the right on a graph out to 2020, but more than that, the high-tech jobs that are being grown, not just in the Valley and in New York, but in Salt Lake City or in Des Moines or in Nashville, Tennessee or Detroit, Michigan. Name your city where high-tech jobs are growing, and it is every city in the United States. For every job that's created in a high-tech concern, 4.3 non-tradable sector jobs, I'm going to use the economic terminology for a minute, 4.3 non-tradable sector jobs are created in those communities. So that's everything from a restaurant opening, a baker, a banker, a plumber, a lawyer, things that you can't get anywhere else. It sounds like an Angie's List ad, and it kind of is. But the point of this is that it is not just the effects of the gentleman to my right and many others like them that are starting businesses. It's the communities where these businesses are being grown and are seeing economic development grow and thrive, and what we can project out for the next 10 years to grow and thrive. That's the issue. That's why immigration is so important. We know that there is a skills gap between the jobs we've already created and the jobs we can't create. We can't train people fast enough in this country, so it is negligent not to keep people that want to stay here, working in technology companies, working to start new ones, working in disciplines and finding new technologies and innovating in ways that we haven't conceived of yet. The Vice President, Joe Biden, was often known for colorful language. This is a clean one, don't worry. He likes to say that the future doesn't have a lobbyist. What you see here and what the March for Innovation is all about is exactly that. It is finding a lobbyist for the future, and it is in the voices of entrepreneurs and in the voices of people working in technology companies and the people that are in universities now that want to start those companies that want to stay here. That is why they are so important to this debate. The bill that we've seen that Emily has talked so well about, which would do so many great things for our community, the startup community, the technology community, has been reported out of committee to the floor of the Senate. That is an incredible victory for people that want immigration reform in this country, and it's basically like the equivalent of a football game where you haven't even put your pads on yet. We are right on the cusp of this, and things like March for Innovation and what we're doing with Engine Advocacy and what Emily's doing in Silicon Valley Leadership Group, and what all of you can do as well, are going to be vitally important to making sure that a good bill passes the Senate and the House and is on the President's desk being signed into law sooner rather than later, so that guys like the three sitting to my right and others like them don't have to go somewhere else to start businesses that can drive the economy. That's what Engine's working on. That's why immigration is so important, and that's why we're all here today. I'm really looking forward to seeing what else we can do at the March and beyond.
Yeah, there's two things that I wanted to sort of bring in, sort of adding to your points. First, we just recently did an startup ecosystem report where we actually looked at sort of the major ecosystems around the world, specifically for software entrepreneurship, which is kind of the major driver right now for job growth and economic growth. And what we found is that in these ecosystems, we have a range between 5 and 30% of the founders are from or lived in Silicon Valley previously before starting their company in Sao Paulo, in Moscow, in Singapore, in Sydney, in all of these other places around the world. So we actually do have a fair amount of people that were here and that for some reason went to these other places and started their companies there first. Second, so adding a sort of a bigger context onto what you said, and more specifically, what we're seeing right now is essentially a new type of industrial revolution, where we are going through a massive socioeconomic structural shift. We're very similar to what we saw going from what we saw in the industrial sector is now happening in the service sector, where within the next 15 to 20 years, and that's estimation, but about half of what we know today as service industry is going to be replaced by software companies. So we are going through a structural shift where a lot of the businesses, as we know them today, will be reinvented at their core. They will be reinvented by software, automating a lot of human labor, amplifying human labor. Humans will start to do other types of work. And that structural shift will create a lot of changes in wealth. It will democratize a lot of resources. It will create a new fundament for our future economy. And the foundation for that is being laid today, which means the more companies the US can attract in starting those kind of companies, the better, the stronger the fundament for the future of the US within the global economy. And the more other countries can attract, the better for those other countries. So this is actually a pivotal point in these coming years, where the more entrepreneurs, specifically technology entrepreneurs, the US can bring over here to start their companies, the better. And it's always hard to predict the future, to look into the future, make decisions based on the future, as we said. But if there is a bill that can have a real big impact on the US economy, this bill can. And the immigration bill will have a much bigger impact than changing the some taxes by 0.5 percentage point or something. All of this will not change anything for the next 50 years. What will change something is doing the immigration bill, right?
So does anyone else have comments on what you think the immigration bill would mean to your sector or?
Yeah, I think to both of my point is that that's the reason why now it's important, right? I think you can, it's so, especially in the software sector, it's getting easier and easier to do this from anywhere. There's no reason why I would want to be in Silicon Valley or in the United States. It's getting easier and easier for me to think about, I can do this from somewhere else. I can do it from Canada, I can do it from somewhere else. Because software and systems have evolved to that point very quickly. So it's even more important to Mike's point that, yeah, I got trained here. I love, my education here was really important. That drives every decision, every decision I make. And I have that set of skills that I can use here. But I can take that with me and do this from somewhere else, which, why lose me? Or, I was inspired here and I would like to be here. And the easier it is for me to do that while at the same time creating a company, I think that's what's important. So the time is right, I feel like, and it's looking forward to the future rather than thinking about what is now.
Alex, do you have any comments about what that would mean for you personally or for your industry?
Well, personally for the company, we have a lot more people working here in the US as opposed to having them work overseas. We have a software engineering team down in Bogota, Colombia. And if actually some of the people that we tried to get H1 visas for, they didn't make it on this raffle that the government had to make. So now we are trying to figure out what to do. So I would have more people.
So those jobs would be here.
Yeah.
You could have gotten them.
Now I'm sending the money
I
to
just want to
Colombia.
make it extra clear.
Right now that
would be
money is
here.
going every month from an account here in the US to an account in Colombia in order to pay for those people in Colombia.
But if you had gotten those H1Bs, those people would be here.
Yeah.
And they would have been happy to move here.
Oh, sure, of course, they love it because one of the cool things about Silicon Valley, and by the way, one of the reasons we moved from New York City to Silicon Valley recently, is because in here people really want to change the world. We live in some kind of, fortunately, kind of delusion that we can change the world, and most of us can actually do it. Some of us have to try many times before we reach that, but that's important, and people love that. Innovators love to be surrounded by people that feel that way as well. Finding people in here, though, is difficult because there is a lot of competition. It's not about money. I'm paying salaries in Colombia as high as the salaries that I have to pay here in the US. The reason I find them, or I hire some of them in Colombia, is because that's where I find the passion to do something. And here I find the passion, but there is more people trying to hire them as well. It's not about money. I mean, you can offer them more money. They are not going to care about money. They are not going to care about a lot of benefits that you offer because it's already kind of taught by companies like Google and Yammer. You need to offer them the chance to change the world. So I have to go outside to find that people, even though I'm paying salaries similar to the salaries that I might be paying in here. So I love to have, of course, the possibility of bringing people in here that share that and that is going to get competitive salaries as well.
And those people are an amazing investment for the US economy, or US as a country, because the US didn't have to pay for these people to grow up. They didn't have to pay for the infrastructure for the people to grow up. They didn't have to pay for the education. They didn't have to pay for anything. And they only get the productive period of these people who are overperformers and who pay tons of taxes, right? Who might start another company, who create tons of values within a given ecosystem they choose to go. So there is, from like an investment perspective, stealing this talent and getting it here is actually something that is extremely favorable for the US. You know, it's more taxes that come in, it's more money that they can spend on the people who might have less opportunities within the US, right? Who might not be able to learn to become an engineer and come here, right? Who might be disabled in some way, right?
So, and one of the issues right now is the time sensitivity to the bill. Like, unfortunately, unfortunately, the life cycle of Washington, D.C. taking up bills is not the same as the product life cycle in the Valley. And if this bill doesn't pass now, no politician is going to touch this issue for another 10 years. In 10 years, the global competition for talent will look completely different. And the U.S. might have lost that race. And that's a tide that is really hard to turn. So we really want to emphasize to people, we don't want to look back 4 months from now when the bill doesn't pass and go, what happened? Right? Because this is a golden opportunity in political windows that needs to be captured. That's also sensitive to the fact that, as you said, conditions are changing. Before, everyone wanted to come and stay here, and now there's actually equal opportunities or sometimes better opportunities abroad. And instead of rolling out the red carpet, we're rolling out the red tape. So this bill is a step in changing that, and now is really the time to get active and help folks like these get their visas. So I'm going to end with one more question because it is getting late, and that is, what are you personally doing to promote immigration reform, and what do you think others should be doing?
I think March for Innovation campaigns, like more tools so that we can have our voices heard. It's great. We're working with organizations like Engine. It helps us tell our story, put a face to what the impact is, rather than just talk about numbers and economic impact. I think having panels like this are really a way for us to tell our story and put a face to what that message is about and what the value of immigration reform is. So I participate whenever I can, and I would calculate.
Yeah, I think, well, I'm trying to contribute with these kind of things, and we, with the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, went to Washington, and we met a bunch of like senators and people from the House and with the administration. We have told them our stories, which I noticed, is really important. So help those people also to relate to the problem, and I think relating to the problem is the biggest pain point. The biggest pain point for people who are not in the major metropolitan areas, and who actually know immigrants, who can relate to the problems of those people, and who can also understand the impact that companies like Google creates, right? It's a massive impact on the economy, but for a lot of people who are not close to immigrants nor to those disruptive companies, and they don't understand what's happening behind the scenes, they have a very hard time relating to the actual problem. And I think that's where I actually don't know how to resolve that. Like, how do you reach someone who is, in Minnesota, in Ohio, in Idaho, in places where you don't have as much immigrants, you don't have as many of those disruptive companies. How do you communicate to them that this is actually beneficial for them, it's important, and that they need to activate also their representatives to make a difference. And I think those are the swing states, right? Those are that will actually make the big difference, because there is a group of people that are already convinced and that know this is beneficial, this makes sense, and you don't need to discuss about it, everybody gets it. And then there's another group of people that just don't know anything about this, they can't relate to it, and they think, why do we need more people? Why, like, we have so many unemployed people here, why don't they just start companies? Why don't they fill all of these jobs here in the valley, right? And they can't relate to the problem. And I don't know how to best communicate this, but I think that is something that all of us should think about. And anyone who has relatives, who has friends in those other places, I think it would be good to communicate to those people and try to start a dialogue there. And even one conversation can make a difference. That's, I guess, my plea to anyone who's watching or anyone who's here in the audience. Yeah.
So, in our case, in my case, personally, I do all those things that you guys have in there. I tweet, I tag, I post. But I've been taking resources of the business to promote iMerge. So one of the things that we do with our technology is we create podcasts for publications. So that if you're a blogger, now you can listen to the article instead of reading it. And we are sponsoring some of those blogs. We are paying for the actual production of those in exchange of adding information about our business. And recently, as iMerge March for Innovation was approaching, we changed. We are no longer promoting the business. We are now promoting March for Innovation with resources of the business. It's relatively actually small compared to the effort that you guys are doing. I think that probably we could do even more things. But I think that you can help not only at a personal level, you can also help at a business level, because your business is going to benefit from this one way or another. So why not allow the business to help as well? In terms of what you can do, well, you can tweet, tag, like, post, etc., etc. But something important is probably to find what resonates with the people around you. Today, we were talking here a few minutes ago, here in San Francisco, everybody is in favor of immigration, but how do you get to the Midwest? How do you get to areas where this doesn't sound as attractive? Try to find a message and then spread that message. And it's about something about persistence. You need to be persistent with what you're doing, because it's not only about telling it once, it's about telling it until that bill passes, and then improving on that bill, hopefully. Earlier today, I was being interviewed by the Huffington Post, and as I talked, somebody tweeted, I mentioned that we want to bring more innovators here, and one person tweeted, yes, but we have a lot of innovation here in the US already, why bring more? And my reply was, well, if you want to win the Super Bowl, right, you don't want to have just good players, you want to have the best players, and I think that that's the same in here. Yes, there is a lot of innovation in here, but we want to have the best innovators in the US. So, and you can apply the same with other sports, probably NASCAR and baseball. I don't know. So find those kind of examples and share them with people that you know.
And on a funny note, the bill actually does allow for more people with extraordinary abilities to come. So that includes the baseball players, the Major League Baseball ones. That includes the supermodels that Bloomberg really wants to bring in.
And there was something about these visas. The current the current laws actually give priority to models as opposed to tech people and entrepreneurs.
And the interesting thing is that US is a proponent of free market sort of economy, and they try to, through various channels, force other countries around the world to become like, free market economies. And really, in the end of the day, talent is the same thing. It's a free moving resource, and there's no reason why we should limit the flow of that resource. And it should be possible for any individual to work anywhere. Like why should there be a limitation? Really, it will be favorable. If you follow the idea of capitalism, it's going to be favorable for people around the world.
All right, Mike, bring it home for us.
All right.
What are you doing, and what should others do?
Well, the number one message I want to drive home from this is that it's not what I can do, it's what everyone together that we're going to be able to do here. I can build a platform, we can continue marching, we can do all of this, but it doesn't mean anything if we don't get the voices in this debate that matter. We're going to build a platform moving forward. We'll be collecting immigration stories and positioning them at the forefront of the debate, and providing ways for entrepreneurs to make their voices heard and take up, I think, their rightful place in this. But the bottom line is we need the people to do it. So log on to engine.is, follow us on Twitter and Facebook and all the rest of it, and do all of the tweet, tag, like, and whatever. We're going to be debuting a lot of this as we move forward going past the march. We're continuing to do more with the march as well, but we really do need all of you. The internet is the most powerful force for the democratization of ideas in the history of the world. And the innovation that is driven by those ideas is powered by people. In the same way we want to keep that innovation going, we need to move a bill forward in the United States Congress to make sure that we're able to keep those innovative minds here in the United States, building products online and off, and building and deepening and growing economic growth in communities. That only happens with your support. We got the bill out of committee yesterday. That's a big deal. We're further along in this process than a lot of people would have pegged weeks ago. And I think we have the opportunity to continue moving this forward, but it is going to take the strength of the voice of everyone in this room to get it through the Senate, through the House, and eventually on the President's desk to be signed into law, so that we can move past this and we can build an immigration system that, like a startup company, can scale to meet the demands of the future. We're not going to build this for the next 10 users or the next 10 people that want to immigrate to the United States. We're going to build it for the next million and the next 10 million, moving forward, filling the market demands that we all see in the companies that are being built right now today and the ones that haven't even been thought of yet. We need to build an immigration system that can scale. We definitely need to build one that works. That starts with leading from this community, from all of you, and we're looking to give you ways to do that more than anything else. And if we do it, it'll be one of the great political stories and the great political victories on issue advocacy that's ever been seen. So if that doesn't motivate you, and the stories you've heard tonight don't motivate you, we're going to give you a platform to tell your story anyway, so hopefully that helps. But no, this is the way to do it. We need all of you, we need your support, and we can keep this ball rolling right on down to victory.
Right. I can't understate the importance of this bill. It's going to not only affect our economy for the next few generations, it also has deep social and moral implications for our country as well. And so part of the message that we want to get out is that technically no one cares about the entrepreneurs, but they care about the other parts of the bill that are going to affect the millions of people that are already here, and also the millions of people who want to come, as Mike just said. And so this is a historic moment actually in political movements, because for the first time we're trying to build political advocacy through social media. And so that's why you get the tweet, tag, like, and post. Because these things, the last time we debated immigration, didn't exist actually. Most people were still, wondering what a smartphone was. I mean, now everybody's on these things, and so for the first time in political history, we have this opportunity to kind of show legislators that this is how people are going to be involved in politics and help get their word out. And the other thing too is that you have a unique coalition being built between entrepreneurs like the ones that you see here, and the labor movement and civil rights organizations, and religious leaders and conservatives and liberals, and basically everybody is gathering to promote immigration reform. But the funny thing about politics is that, for instance, 90% of the Americans supported background checks for gun control, and that bill went down in flames. So even though we're all sitting here going, this all makes sense, why don't we pass this, of course, this should happen, it's not going to happen unless everybody in America gets involved in talking to, until the cows come home, basically, that we want immigration reform. So if you have relatives in those swing states, go out and have those conversations with them, tell them what this means. If you have, people that, you work for who can get involved, your employer, just as Alex was saying, employers can get involved in this. Get your parents to, email or call or, tweet or post their representatives. We basically need everyone to do a lift if we're going to get this passed. And again, hopefully we'll be celebrating in a few months one of the greatest political victories that is going to be a huge step forward that's going to help define our country and keep moving us forward. So with that, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. And please tonight, go onto your social media, go to marchforinnovation.com, and if you haven't already posted or tweeted, please check that out. Sign up for the Thunderclap, and then tomorrow we'll have a new set of activities involved, including an 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time Google Hangout, in which my boss, Carl Rodino, will be interviewing 2 other immigrant entrepreneurs. So we'd love to have you join us either on Google Hangout, but all day long there'll be a whole set of events, so go ahead and check that out. And thanks for joining us tonight. We'd like to tell your story together lately. So if you guys are doing the contact recruiters, literally the White House. Sure.
We're building up this, one by hand.